It's been just over a week since the Royal Rumble, and so today we're taking a look back. We're going to look at some of the big moments and breakout performers to see where they're at today and where they are headed. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome to the Pro Wrestling Breakdown. My name is Brandon and thanks for jumping in on this video. Today we are talking about the Royal Rumble. I know it's been just over a week, and coming out of the Royal Rumble there were a lot of discussion points, and we're not going to hit them all today, just a few, but I love to take a look back a week later to see if some of the things that we thought were happening in the Rumble or some of the storylines that were developing in the Rumble have been addressed. What's going on? Which direction are we headed? And so let's take a look at some of those key moments that really sparked some discussion on social media. And the first one that we've got to talk about is Bron Breakker. As you know, Bron Breakker came in number 2 behind Obafemi. On his way to the ring, he's attacked by a mystery attacker, then thrown into the ring and eliminated in just seconds. And immediately social media cried that Bron Breakker was being buried, that this was ridiculous booking. But I have a different take. I think that Bron Breakker was actually being protected. Here's the deal. Bron Breakker is a future world champion. Nobody is disputing that. He is the future of the business, but they're not ready to put him in the world title picture yet. And so the only option was to have Bron Breakker eliminated from the Royal Rumble. Now, I think in order to keep him from looking weak, to keep him from being buried, they set up the mystery attacker angle. That way, there was some just weird conclusion to that and let Obafemi eliminate him immediately. To me, this isn't burial. This is protection. Look, in game for Bron Breakker right now is Seth Rollins. We're all pretty confident that we're going to see Bron Breakker versus Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. But this is a way to keep Bron Breakker in the main event conversation, but away from a world title and away from taking a clean loss at WrestleMania. We know that Seth is not back yet. We know that he is not medically cleared yet. We're hoping that he's going to be back for WrestleMania. That is still in question. And there is news developing now that Bron Breakker actually just had hernia surgery for what is said to be a pretty serious hernia. So a week later, they're still moving in that direction. There's still a lot of conversation around the mystery attacker. They're still looking at Seth Rollins. There's still this tension between Bron Breakker and Adam Pearce, and all of that is pointing towards WrestleMania and this conflict with Seth Rollins. And so I believe Bron Breakker is still right on track. His stock has not been dropped as a result of WrestleMania. It's actually been elevated. I got to see where the surgery and his recovery goes with that, and what happens with the mystery attacker. There was little to no movement in identifying that person this week on Raw. So hopefully, as we move forwards tonight and going into the next couple of weeks, we'll get some answers around that. But short answer to say, Bron Breakker still on the rise. WrestleMania or Royal Rumble did not hurt his stock. It actually, I think, at least kept him where he is, if not pushed him forward just a little bit. Now, the next person I got to talk about is Kiana James and her breakout performance. And I know that when it comes to the Women's Rumble, there were 3 really huge breakout stars in that match, 3 MVPs, if you will, and they were Lash Legend, Sol Ruca, and then Kiana James. Lash and Sol are both sort of more established. They're more known. So while they did have breakout performances, it wasn't the jump, the size of Kiana's jump. What we saw from Kiana James is what I've known Kiana to be capable of since NXT. Unfortunately for her, timing has been off. She got drafted to Raw. I didn't think that was the right time to move her to Raw. I thought she was kind of still needed to establish herself a little bit in NXT. It didn't look like they had a plan for her on Monday Night Raw, and then she picked up an injury that kept her on the sidelines for a year. She came back, and the comeback was not like a lot of fanfare. It was just all of a sudden she's there with Julia as sort of her mouthpiece. For me, that relationship hasn't been working so far, and then she shows up in the Rumble and puts on an absolute banger, and we see the love pouring out in the IWC. Everybody is all of a sudden interested. They all of a sudden are behind Kiana James, which is great, which is awesome. Will WWE continue to capitalize on that momentum? And I've got to say that so far, a week later, it looks like they're going to at least make an attempt. She was booked with Julia to take on Rhea Ripley and Io Sky in that tag team match, and it was again another banger and another breakout, another standout performance from Kiana James. And so it does look like WWE is trying to push her a little bit at a time. I don't think they're ready to put the rocket ship on her back, but they are starting to invest in Kiana James, and we can see that. And so hopefully what happens next is Kiana continues to move forward, and what I could see happening is maybe a face turn from Kiana and a feud with Julia. Now, I don't love that because I think Kiana James is actually a really good heel personality, and I want to see that remain, but that could be a good way to push her forward, and then she could do another heel turn down the road. But coming out of Royal Rumble and heading into the road to WrestleMania, I think Kiana James stock is on the rise, and it's on the rise quick. So buy Kiana James stock while you can. All right, now let's talk about Liv and Raquel. And Liv eliminating Raquel Rodriguez from the Royal Rumble. And she chose to. She did this on purpose, and there has been some tension. Liv ends up winning the Royal Rumble and is going on to WrestleMania. We don't know who she's going to choose yet. And so there is this ongoing tension between her and Raquel Rodriguez. And a week later, we've seen that continue to play out. She got involved in the Raquel-Stephanie Vaquer match on Raw last week, despite Raquel asking her not to. They came to SmackDown. They end up in a tag team match that they ended up losing. And there's still this continual sort of drama between them. I thought coming out of Royal Rumble that we were going to see Liv and Raquel at WrestleMania. I thought Raquel might win on Raw, get the women's world championship, and then that would begin the eventual collapse of Judgment Day, and we would get Liv versus Raquel at WrestleMania. It doesn't look like that is the case at this point. Now that could change. It could go back. It could end up with Raquel somehow winning that women's world championship. But at this point, it does look like we're going to see at least Liv versus Steph at WrestleMania. Maybe that gets turned into a triple threat. But I think based on what we're seeing right now, that we'll see Liv win that world title at WrestleMania, and maybe the Liv and Raquel breakdown happens after that, and it becomes the storyline heading towards SummerSlam. We'll see, but this is early signs of a slow burn. We will get to the other side at some point. Now let's jump into the other Royal Rumble winner, the men's winner, Roman Reigns. Let's talk about him. He won. It was highly expected, highly anticipated that Roman would walk out as the winner. He's already chose CM Punk as his opponent, and there is a conversation going around. Did Roman Reigns need that win to get into the world title picture? Obviously, the answer to that question is no. There's a lot of other content creators in this space, one of which I follow, Santi Zap, said that Roman Reigns could fart and end up in the world title match. And that is true. Did he need it? No. But that has to bring into question, what is the purpose of the Royal Rumble? Is the Royal Rumble about building new stars, or is it about creating a match for WrestleMania? It's the latter. It's not about building new stars. The way they build new stars in the Royal Rumble is situations like Kiana James. But the winner of the Royal Rumble is traditionally somebody that is more established. Now, when you get to Money in the Bank, sometimes even Elimination Chamber, that's where you see these new stars start to get established. That's where you see these bigger pushes. The Royal Rumble has always been about creating some drama. And I feel like they did that better in the women's side than the men's side. But I am excited to see CM Punk versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Not a lot to have to say there. It's just an ongoing war between the two of them, which makes a lot of sense over championships and Paul Heyman and all of that. But the real breakdown here is the purpose of the Royal Rumble. It's not about establishing new stars through winning. It's about creating some new stories, some new interactions, perhaps some new rivalries, and then pushing that big WrestleMania event. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. Charlotte eliminated Alexa Bliss from the Rumble, and it looked like an accident, but who can say? And the follow-up on that story has been non-existent. So unfortunately, neither of them were on SmackDown this week, and that one I feel like is the one that they dropped the ball with a little bit. There could have been at least a backstage segment with one of the two of them, a video package, something to keep that going, but I don't remember seeing it. Maybe I'm off. Tell me in the comments below if I missed it. But at any rate, we didn't get any follow-up on that, which is unfortunate. Now we could jump in and talk about Obafemi, we could talk about Trick Williams, we could talk about Javon, we could talk about Soul and Lash and all of that, and we will get to some of those in some future videos, but those are the things right now that I see that WWE really needs to capitalize on. Obviously they need to capitalize on Oba. We'll have a video about him here coming up soon, but as far as Royal Rumble goes, that is those are the key points coming out of it that I see happening and moving towards WrestleMania. Even Charlotte and Alexa, we'll see what happens with that. I think in game for the two of them is that tag team is going to come to an end here soon and result in a feud, and I can't wait to see what happens there. It's going to be awesome. Let me know in the comments below if you think there's something that I missed. Would love to hear from you and get that discussion going. Thanks for watching this video. While you're down there in the comments, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks for being part of this community. Thanks for checking out this video. We'll see you soon on the Pro Wrestling Breakdown.